Hello, and welcome to St Michael's Hill. Today is a very different video, I suppose. I don't usually do these pieces to camera, but there are a few reasons why I really need to. I'm going to basically be introducing the new layout, and obviously whilst I do that, nothing really exists for it, so it's probably best that I kind of talk you through it like this. Before we kick off with that though, I'd really like to give a massive thanks to all the subscribers that have been coming onto the channel in the last few weeks. It's picking up at an incredible pace. As of yesterday, I think we're at 900, which, when you consider the channel started just over a year ago, it just seems crazy. But thank you for everyone who's kind of interested in what I'm doing. It's certainly nice to kind of have the interest, and obviously people seem to like what I'm doing, so it's really great. I'm kind of always at the end of a comment. If you want to leave a comment or question or ask me to do something, pop it in a comment section of any of my videos, and I'll try my very best to answer those. I kind of manage at the moment to answer everything that kind of comes my way, which is really good. It's great to be part of a community, and part of that is in the YouTube comments. So thank you for everyone who's getting involved. So as I've said, in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the new layout that I'm going to be building. I've mentioned it loads of times over the last probably 6 months, probably even longer. It's taken me a while to get round to being able to kind of talk to you about it, and that's basically because I've been planning and researching and planning some more, and then ripping everything up and planning again, researching some more, changing my ideas completely, and I think finally I've kind of come up with an idea that I'm happy with, both in terms of operation, construction, and also kind of what I'm actually going to be modelling, which ultimately is the main point. I'm pretty sure I'm now happy with all my ideas, although I will caveat this with anything you see in this video is subject to change. I'm not immune to changing my ideas, and I'm certainly not immune to being told by other people that there are better ways of doing things. So I'm always open to kind of feedback and listening to people. So these ideas, whilst are certainly my intentions right now, might well change. Okay, so there's no kind of guarantee from me that all of this will happen, but we'll see what happens from here. So at the moment, I'm planning to build the baseboards myself. I was looking at various kits from people like Tim Horn, but ultimately they just kind of worked out a little bit too expensive on the scale that I'm trying to build, and also for a permanent layout, which is what this is going to be, I don't think they quite offer the strength that I'm looking for. It doesn't mean that they're not good boards. I think certainly Tim Horn's boards I've seen in various exhibition layouts, they are stunning. If I was building an exhibition layout tomorrow, I'll buy some of his baseboards and go from there. But for me, I've decided that I'm going to build them myself. I'm going to get a load of poplar plywood, 18mm, for the frames, and I'm going to build it in a modular way, and then I'm going to use 12mm poplar ply for the kind of track bed, and the legs will be kind of made from kind of timbers. That's kind of less important, I suppose, but the main construction will be 18mm poplar ply, which is light, really strong, and hopefully will stand the test of time. Now, whilst this is going to be a permanent layout, it's going to live in the garage, I do want to make it modular, so if I ever do decide to move in the future, or I want to sell the layout, or anything which might dictate that it's no longer needed in the garage or can't be housed in the garage, I can take it apart and keep it or get rid of it. But just allowing that, a slightly modular kind of way of doing things, is going to help me. Now, that might not run all the way through to scenery, but at least if the baseboards are modular, it will be easier to kind of cut up and remove if I need to in the future. In terms of operation, this is an area where I've been going back and forth a lot, to be honest. My initial thought was to run it the way that the current St Michael's Hill is run, just as a DCC layout with mimic panels that control electronic point motors through physical switches. I was happy with that until I started looking more into the digital, automation and compute controlled layouts. Now, whilst I'm fairly sure that I'm going to want to play with this layout in a kind of manual way at times, it won't hurt to have a digital or automated kind of control module that allows me to do both. Having a layout without any sort of computer control obviously never allows for that, unless you spend the money to rewire and kind of do all the electrics. But to have a layout that's already set up with that in mind is always a good thing. Now I kind of was very interested in that, and I basically booked in some time to go and see James at DCC Train Automation. It's kind of very much a specialist area for him, and I managed to go and spend a morning with him where I basically talked through all the options, and he actually explained it in a way that just made it seem half as difficult and twice as rewarding than I thought it was ever going to be. So I've certainly decided now that that's the way I'm going to be going. I'm probably going to be looking at the DigiKeys DR5000 as a control unit, and then using iTrain as a way of controlling basically everything on the layout, from trains and lights and all that sort of stuff. And if digital control or even computer control or automation is something that you are interested in doing, I couldn't recommend going either to speak to James in person if you're kind of down in the southwest like I am, or getting on the phone with him. He really knows what he's talking about. He explains things in a really great way, and he's seems to be fairly impartial about the types of products that he's talking about. There's various lines that he kind of offers within his shop, so definitely kind of speak to him about that. I was really pleased with the service that I got from him. And actually, whilst I was down there, he is building a layout for a customer at the moment, and it was great to kind of see as well, like the way he puts his baseboards together, and I certainly took a few tips from that, and hopefully it's going to help with my baseboard construction too. So big thanks to James and Steve down at DCC Train Automation. In terms of point motors and signalling, I am planning on having kind of as I said with the automation, a block system that's going to run the signals and point work pretty prototypically, which is exciting. In terms of specifics like point motors, I haven't yet quite decided how I'm going to do that, but certainly various options that kind of are compatible with all sorts of kind of digital automation systems. So as I kind of come to that, I will look into that, but it will certainly be all controlled, or able to be controlled kind of automatically through the DCC system. It just, at first I kind of felt it was a very, I guess, impersonal and removed way of running a layout, but actually looking at the system on iTrain and how it all works, it just actually feels like a lot more fun. It looks like if you grew up on games like Transport Tycoon like I did, it kind of almost feels like that, a way of kind of playing a game like that, but whilst running real trains. So actually it was really fun, and I think that was the side of it that surprised me. The actual control looks so much better than just being able to flick a few switches and run a toggle on a handset to run your train. So that's what I'll be doing, and with the baseboard construction done right and done properly and slowly, and I should kind of have a base set up there that will kind of treat me very well, and I can have a lot of fun with it from there. Before we get on to what I'm actually going to be modelling, I'm going to talk a little bit about rules and rules of modelling. Now, the only rule I believe in 100% is rule 1, and that is that you can run what you want on your railway. Okay, so what I'm about to propose that I'm going to be doing on mine is part of that. It's not a judgment on anyone who runs anything on their layout, whether it's 100% prototypical or completely fanciful. That's brilliant. You do what you want to do on your railway, and that's important. And as such, I've come up with my own rule 1, and that is that I want to run things prototypically for the area that I'm modelling in and the time period that I'm modelling in. However, all I need is something to have happened once, and I will be able to include it on the layout. So by that I just mean if a train once ran, so if a class 50 for example once pulled ballast hoppers through the area and I got proof of that, then I will be able to include it on the layout. And if it hasn't happened, then I'm not really that interested in running it. Now, that will sound crazy to some people, but for me, it sounds fun, it sounds interesting. And I have chosen an era and an area where I'm fairly confident I'll be able to run 99.9% of the trains that I would like to run anyway. So it's not a massive problem for me, but I just like to have a bit of a structure in place when it comes to what trains I run. And partly that is to keep costs down. If I fancied every new model that was coming out, then I'd be in big trouble. Cavalex have got their 91. That won't fit into what I'm doing ever. That will be a fairly impossible one. So it gives me an excuse not to buy something from those guys, and despite the model I'm sure being excellent. The same with the Acura scale 92 and the recent Bachmann 90 and all this sort of stuff. I could easily get into a position where I've decided to run trains like that just because the models are great, and that's not good for the bank balance. So part of it is because of financial, but part of it is just because I've got a fair interest in things being kind of realistic or historically accurate. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So then, a lot of you are probably wondering what I am going to be modelling in terms of what I'm trying to replicate on model form, scale, all this sort of stuff. So it won't surprise any of you to know that I'm going to be sticking with 00. If you've been watching any of my videos recently, you would have seen the shed behind me and a few other bits that I'm working on for the new layout, and obviously that's all 00, so I'm sticking with 00. So then, on to what I'm going to be modelling, both in terms of area, in terms of scene, in terms of era. It's all obviously probably what you're most interested in. So firstly, the area that I'm going to be modelling is the South Wales area. Some of you may have noticed my thumbnail with the layout name in it, which is basically a botched, a Google Translate version of St Michael's Hill into Welsh, which, as many of you know from Gavin and Stacey, Bryn is the Welsh word for hill, and it seems to put St Michael's to San Michael or San Michael. So it's going to be called that, but effectively it's St Michael's Hill, but in Welsh. So I'm keeping the name of the channel and the layout. I'll still be referring to it as St Michael's Hill probably, but any potential kind of depot names or station names or anything like that will be in the Welsh. And yeah, I'm sure it's not 100% right, but you know, it's a bit of fun. So I'm going to be looking at South Wales, and the era is very similar to what I've been doing at St Michael's Hill as it is. So I've extended it a little bit. So it'll be from 1995 till 2005. So a 10-year period at the end of sectorisation into early privatisation. So on the freight side, it'll be lots of load haul, Transrail, and mainline, as well as EWS. And obviously there'll be things in rail freight grey and all that sort of stuff that has kind of passed over, but nothing really beyond that. There'll be Freightliner and that sort of thing. In terms of passenger workings, it'll probably be around the time of the Intercity Swallow, Great Western Merlin, and maybe even some kind of the fag packet, bit of Virgin trains maybe, and then in regional railways and things like that in the smaller units. So it's very similar to what I'm doing at the moment. It's very much a deliberate choice. It's A, what I'm interested in. It's B, what I have a load of stock for, and that's that really. So it's going to be based around that sort of period, but in South Wales, and I'm talking kind of where the lines meet, probably somewhere between Newport and Cardiff. So it kind of gives all the traffic that's come from London Paddington and from the Wales and West through the Severn Tunnel, but also where it meets all the stuff that's come down from the Midlands down the kind of Cheltenham and then Chepstow line and comes through there. So it gives probably the maximum amount of interest in terms of traffic flow, but also kind of it's fairly local to where I live. I like to go over there and kind of watch trains now, so yeah, that's kind of very interesting. In terms of research for this, as well as books, which are great, and the odd DVD that I've got, YouTube has been a huge source of information and inspiration. There's 3 channels in particular. So we've got Wellovids, Mike Willock and Brian Tucker, who all have got plenty of videos from that time period in South Wales that I've been able to look at what kind of stock's running. But more than that, it's the kind of line side detailing, the types of buildings, all this sorts of stuff. So thank you to those 3 channels in particular. I will leave links in the description below if you're interested in this sort of era and what you might end up seeing on the layout. I really thoroughly recommend checking out those channels. I think all 3 of them also do videos from all around the country in that sort of time period. So if you're interested in kind of your, the classic diesel days of 47s, 56s, 37s in their heyday, check out those channels. They've got some great footage. In terms of the exact track plan, I will do a full video on that. There's quite a lot of kind of thinking behind what I've done, so many kind of versions of the track plan that I had, and you won't be surprised that a lot of them revolve around the depot behind me, both in terms of it's the center point of the layout, and also there's kind of been a lot to do with the way I've planned it. But I will kind of reveal a few things now, in that there's going to be elements of a depot scene, TMD, although it will be more of a loco inspection point, so a little bit smaller than kind of a full TMD. But so that'll be kind of the main focal point. There will also be a running line a running main line, pair of main lines around the whole layout. So there'll be an element of kind of tail chaser about it, so I can just put trains on if I want to and just watch them go round. And then in addition to that, I'm looking at having a large town scene, which will probably take up about maybe up to half the layout. So it won't all be kind of full of trains. I kind of want to keep things a little bit simpler on that front. I want it to look like a model of a town with a railway, rather than just a load of railway and then a little bit of town or something stuck on the side of it. Part of the rationale behind kind of building with an open frame technique is that I can kind of incorporate it a lot more, the railway that is, into the scene. I think when Everard Junction did his kind of video, probably very similar to this one, where he spoke about kind of things he wanted to do, he made a really good point about how open frame allows you to kind of make it look like the railway is in a town, rather than having a town next to a railway. And it's very much what I'm also looking to achieve by using a similar open frame technique. So I'll be doing that, but the town will also probably be a fairly large section where there isn't any railway at all. So that's kind of what I'm going to be looking to do. There's going to be certainly an embankment area where the train kind of has left the town and is in more of a countryside, rural type scene. And then I will also be having a fairly large fiddle yard down one side for storage and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of it. In terms of a station, the last thing I really need to decide is whether to have a small station or not. I will probably be looking at over the next week or so, just to kind of firm up some ideas about whether I want to actually have a small station for kind of stopping services, or whether not to have one at all. And that's something that is still to kind of be decided. Before I kind of bore you all to death, which if I haven't done already, then congratulations for sticking with me this far. I just want to talk a little bit about timescales and all that sort of stuff. I'm doing this because I want a model railway. I'm not doing this because I want a YouTube series about how to construct one. I will, of course, be documenting how I go on YouTube, and that's great. There will be videos from the series, and that's undeniable, but I'm not doing it to create that content. It's not like I'll be steaming ahead just to get a video in every week on this new layout. I just want to make that fairly clear. The baseboards should start construction soon, but I'm going to be taking my time on them. My vague plan is to have them done by Christmas, and then I can kind of start looking at kind of track and all that sort of stuff in the new year. Now, I've got some time off over the next few weeks. It may end up being quicker than that. I'm not sure. I just don't want to rush anything. But don't expect to see a video of this series every week. It's just not going to happen. Having said that, I will try to keep videos as regular as possible on various other things. So I'll still be looking at kind of stock modifications. I'll still be looking at the occasional review, building buildings for the layout, things like that, which I can kind of do separately and away from those sorts of things. Building layouts is also not cheap, so I'll be needing to save up for things as I go. It's not a case of I've got an unlimited pot of money that I can just throw at this. It'll be a case of buying bits when I can. Obviously the initial stages are always expensive, buying track, buying a control system, buying all the wood, all that sort of stuff is not cheap. So that will be coming as it comes. I just want to make it clear that, you know, I will try and update content as regularly as possible, but don't expect it to be rushing ahead or anything like that. Having said that, the next video from this series will be the track plan, going through that in detail, why I've made decisions I've made, and how I got there. There's lots of people who have really interesting videos about track plans, and I personally really enjoy them, so I wanted to create something similar. So hopefully you'll find that enjoyable when the time comes. Also, I will hopefully release that in enough time to basically allow for kind of feedback and constructive criticism on that. So if people make good comments or point things out that maybe I haven't seen, I'll be able to still work that into my plans going forward. So hopefully that'll be in the next couple of weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks time. And then obviously as the baseboards are going up, we can kind of discuss those ideas in a bigger group. And if people make great suggestions, then maybe I'll include some of those in the plan. But yeah, that's basic timescales. So thank you for joining me today. If you've reached the end of this video, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really excited about this project. It's a big kind of step up for me. I'm looking forward to kind of sharing the progress and all that with you. Once again, a big thank you to everyone who's helped me get this far. So obviously James at DCC Train Automation has been amazing. Again, I'll put a link in the description below, but if you're thinking of anything automation wise, go over to his shop, his channel, all sorts. Just get in touch with him and he will certainly help you. Jack at Tony Dock Station has also been a great help. He's also been using iTrain, so it was good to kind of have a chat with him. And then all the guys who've also supported me on various projects that have, you know, it really goes a long way and gives me a lot of confidence to do this sort of stuff. So thank you very much. And once again, thank you to all the subscribers. Reaching 900 is just mad. I'm sure when I get to 1,000, if that happens, I will do some sort of giveaway. So yeah, keep an eye on that. And once we get there, we'll go from there. But thank you for joining me today. I will leave you with some running shots of the current layout. I'm very aware that me talking to a camera is not what you're used to on this channel, and probably not what you're interested in either. So I'll leave you with some of the shots of the trains, and I will speak to you soon on St Michael's Hill. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Thanks for joining me today at the beginning of this new layout. If you want to see more from my channel, there's a video on the top left hand corner of the page. And if you're new, why not subscribe by clicking on the icon on the bottom right hand corner of the page. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next week with some more content on St Michael's Hill. Thanks very much. Bye bye.